Have you ever woken up at 2 a.m. and just laid there? Not because of a noise, not because you are anxious about work or money or anything specific, just awake. Lying in the dark, staring at the ceiling, your mind clear, your body still, wondering what is wrong with you. Have you ever noticed that when you cannot sleep, there is a strange quality to the silence at that hour? It is not peaceful exactly. It is not disturbing. It is something else. Something between rest and awareness that your brain does not have a word for. Something that feels almost, and this is the part that most people never say out loud, natural. As if your body arrived somewhere it wanted to be. And the only thing wrong with the experience is that you believe the experience is wrong. We usually explain this as insomnia, a disorder, a failure of the sleep system. Your doctor might prescribe you melatonin. Your phone might suggest a white noise app. A quick search returns hundreds of articles about sleep hygiene, as if your body were dirty and needed to be cleaned into compliance. The modern world treats waking up in the middle of the night as a problem to be solved. But what if that is not the case? Personally, I no longer believe that. Because in 2001, a historian at Virginia Tech named A. Roger Kirch published a paper in the American Historical Review that changed sleep science. And the thing he found was so obvious, so present in the historical record, so thoroughly documented across centuries and languages and continents, that the real mystery is not what he discovered. The real mystery is how we managed to forget it. For at least 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors woke up in the middle of the night. Not because something was wrong, because that is how humans were designed to sleep. Two separate blocks of rest, bridged by a window of quiet wakefulness in the dark. First sleep and second sleep. It was not a disorder, it was the default. It was universal. And the state your ancestors entered during that wakeful window between sleeps was a distinct form of consciousness that most modern humans have never experienced and may never experience in their entire lives. But that is not the part that kept me awake. The part that kept me awake is what happened to the night itself. Because the night your ancestors lived in for hundreds of thousands of years, every single night of their lives, was a radically different environment from the one outside your window right now. And I do not mean different in a nostalgic, candlelit way. I mean different in a neurological, cosmological, and existential way that we are only now beginning to quantify. The night shaped who we became as a species. It shaped what we believed about the cosmos. It shaped the architecture of your brain. It shaped your relationship with death. And then, in less than 2 centuries, we erased it. We flooded it with light, and we assumed that was progress. We are going to look at 8 things the night did to human beings for 300,000 years. 8 things we lost so quickly that we did not even notice they were gone. Some of them are behavioral, some are neurological, some are cosmic. And by the end of this investigation, you may find yourself looking at the light switch on your wall the way you would look at a door that was quietly locked behind you without anyone telling you it was happening. Let us start with the most basic thing the night did to your ancestors. It tried to kill them. This is the first thing you need to understand about the human relationship with darkness, and it is the one that modern people have the most difficulty grasping. For the vast majority of human history, the night was not a time of rest. It was not cozy. It was not quiet. It was a theater of predation. And you were on the menu. Your eyes are terrible in the dark. This is not an opinion. This is a measurable biological fact. Compared to the animals that hunted your ancestors, leopards, hyenas, wolves, cave bears, you are functionally blind after sunset. A leopard's tapetum lucidum, the reflective layer behind its retina, gives it roughly 6 times the light sensitivity of your eyes. It can detect the outline of a crouching primate from 50 meters away in conditions where you could not see your own feet. A spotted hyena can process enough visual information in near total darkness to sprint at 37 miles per hour toward prey it identified from 300 meters away. You, by contrast, cannot see your own hand at arm's length on a moonless night. Think about what that means for survival. You are a slow-moving, thin-skinned, flat-faced primate with forward-facing eyes optimized for daytime color vision. You have no claws. You have no armor. Your teeth are designed for chewing plants and cooked meat, not for fighting off a 190-pound leopard that can see you perfectly in the dark. After sunset, you are not the predator. You are the prey. And every predator in your ecosystem knows exactly when you become vulnerable. Before fire, the survival strategy was simple and non-negotiable. When the sun went down, you climbed. You found a tree or a sheltered rock ledge, and you stayed still. Moving at night meant becoming food. This is not an exaggeration. This is not dramatic license for a documentary. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups who still live in proximity to large predators. The Hadza of Tanzania, various communities in rural India and sub-Saharan Africa have documented that people who wander away from the safety of camp or fire at night are significantly more likely to be killed by predators. This is true today, in 2026, in communities that still live close to the conditions our ancestors knew. So, the useful day ended at sunset. In summer near the equator, that is maybe 12 usable hours. In winter, at higher latitudes, as few as 8. When the light went, everything stopped. You did not explore. You did not hunt. You did not gather. You climbed up, you held still, and you waited for dawn. Half of every 24-hour cycle was spent in a state of enforced vulnerability, unable to do anything except try not to be noticed by something that could see in the dark and you could not. Then, fire changed the equation. And it changed it literally overnight. The earliest solid evidence of humans controlling fire comes from Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa. In 2012, a team led by Francesco Berna at Boston University and Michael Chazan at the University of Toronto published their analysis in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Deep inside the cave, roughly 30 meters from the entrance, far enough in that wildfire could not have reached, they found microscopic traces of wood ash and burned bone fragments. The sediment analysis showed these remains were heated to approximately 500 degrees Celsius. consistent with a controlled campfire. The layer was dated to approximately 1 million years ago. Something with hands carried fire into that cave and used it. The most likely candidate was Homo erectus, your evolutionary ancestor, who was already roaming southern Africa at the time. But here is the thing about fire that nobody talks about. Fire did not just keep you warm. Fire did not just cook your food, though the cooking part was itself revolutionary. Richard Wrangham at Harvard has argued that the caloric surplus from cooked food is what fueled the expansion of the human brain over the last 2 million years. But the thing fire did that changed everything else about being human was simpler than any of that. Fire restructured the human day. A campfire creates a circle of safety roughly 30 feet in diameter. Think of it like a force field made of light. Inside that circle, large predators will not come. They are afraid of the flame. They will pace at the edges. They will watch. But they will not enter. Outside that circle, you die. Inside it, you live. And that circle, that small dome of orange light in an otherwise black world, gave your ancestors something they had never had before in the entire history of the primate lineage: extra hours. Think about what that means. Think about it the way an economist would think about it. Before fire, the useful day was 8 to 12 hours long, bounded absolutely by sunrise and sunset. Fire suddenly added 2 to 4 usable hours to every single evening. That is a 15 to 30% increase in the conscious human day. But these were not productive hours in the way we think of productivity now. There was no factory work to do by firelight, no spreadsheets to fill in, no emails to send. These were free hours, bonus hours, hours where you were awake, alert, safe behind a wall of flame, warm, fed, and had absolutely nothing to do except sit in the dark with other people and exist. Over thousands of generations, over hundreds of thousands of years, those extra hours changed our species, and we know what happened during them because of a remarkable study that was published in 2014. That study is where the investigation truly begins. But before we get there, notice something about yourself. You are afraid of the dark, not dramatically, not constantly. But if you are honest, walking through a dark parking garage at 1 a.m. feels different from walking through it at 1 p.m. Stepping into a pitch-black room triggers a faint, involuntary spike of alertness. Your heart rate increases slightly, your pupils dilate, your hearing sharpens. You might not consciously think, a leopard is going to eat me, but your body thinks it. Your amygdala, the almond-shaped structure in your temporal lobe that processes threat, is responding to 300,000 years of conditioning. In the dark, you are prey. Your body has never forgotten this. Your body will never forget this. The fear of the dark is not a childhood phase you outgrow. It is a survival program written into your neurology by 1 million years of being hunted by things that could see you before you could see them. And here is the irony. We conquered the predators. We conquered the night. We flooded the dark with artificial light and made it safe. But in making it safe, we eliminated the environmental pressure that forced us into the firelit circle every evening. We eliminated the fear that gathered us together. And we eliminated the hours that fear created. The hours that would become the birthplace of everything we think of as culture. In 2014, an anthropologist named Polly Wisner at the University of Utah published a paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The paper was titled Embers of Society, Firelight Talk Among the Jew/Huanzi Bushmen, and the editorial board flagged it as a finding of exceptional significance. Wisner had spent 40 years studying the Jew/Huanzi, sometimes called the Kung Bushmen, who live in the Kalahari Desert of northeastern Namibia and northwestern Botswana. About 4,000 of them remain, living something close to the original human lifestyle that all of us shared for the vast majority of our existence as a species. They hunt, they gather, they build temporary shelters, they cook over open fire, they tell stories. They have been doing this in roughly this way for a very long time. And Wisner did something that no researcher had done systematically before. She recorded what they talked about during the day. And then she recorded what they talked about at night. She analyzed 174 daytime and nighttime conversations, supplemented by 68 translated fireside stories she recorded over multiple field visits between 2011 and 2013. Some of the stories had originally been told in the 1970s and were retold for her recording equipment decades later. And what she found was striking. During the day, 34% of conversations were complaints, criticism, and gossip. Social regulation, essentially. Who is behaving badly? Who needs to be corrected? Who owes what to whom? Another 31% were about practical matters. Who is hunting where? Which plants are ready? How to distribute the food? 16% were jokes. Only 6% of daytime talk involved stories. But at night, around the fire, the entire character of human conversation inverted. 81% of nighttime conversations were stories. Not gossip, not logistics, stories. Tales about real people in distant places. Adventures from past hunting expeditions. Origin myths. Accounts of marriages and murders and bushfires and encounters with other groups. Jokes that made the whole camp laugh. Accounts of giving birth, of getting lost in the bush, of being chased by animals, of disputes and reconciliations and extramarital affairs. The criticism and social regulation dropped to 7%. The economic planning dropped to 4%. Wisner wrote that there is something about fire in the middle of the darkness that bonds, mellows, and also excites people. It is intimate. The faces are lit from below. The body language is different from daytime interaction. The darkness around the fire creates a kind of theater, a bounded space where the ordinary rules of social interaction shift. Daytime talk regulates, nighttime talk liberates. Think about what this means in evolutionary terms. For hundreds of thousands of years, every human community on Earth spent its evenings in exactly this configuration. A fire, a circle of faces and stories. Not occasionally, not on special occasions, every single night. And the stories were not entertainment, in the way we think of entertainment, something you consume passively to fill dead time. The stories were doing work. Wiesner documented that fireside stories conveyed information about people in broad social networks, people you had never met, who lived days or weeks of travel away. They transmitted cultural rules and expectations. They taught you how institutions worked in a society with no formal schools and no written manuals. They healed rifts that had opened during the confrontational talk of the day. They evoked what psychologists call theory of mind, the ability to imagine what other people are thinking and feeling, even people who are not present. Think of it like this. The campfire was the original social media, except instead of an algorithm deciding what you see, the community collectively decided what stories mattered. And instead of consuming content alone on a screen, you experienced it together, in the dark, around a fire, surrounded by people whose faces you could see reacting in real time to the same narrative you were absorbing. Wiesner herself asked a question that should haunt anyone reading her study. What happens when economically unproductive, fire-lit time is turned into productive time by artificial lighting? What happens when the hours that were once reserved for stories and social bonding become work hours? When you can now sit on a laptop in your home at 10 p.m. instead of sitting around a fire? When you have only 15 minutes to tell your kids a bedtime story? Because work has expanded to fill the time that fire once protected? The campfire conversation was the birthplace of human culture. The fireside story was the original technology for transmitting knowledge, building empathy, and connecting minds across time and space. And it only existed because of the night. The night created the hours. The fire made the hours safe. And into those safe, dark, unproductive hours, humanity poured everything that made it human. Here is what makes Wiesner's findings so unsettling in context. We live in a world where the average American spends roughly 7 hours per day looking at screens. 7 hours of content consumption, most of it alone, most of it algorithmically selected, most of it designed to provoke engagement rather than connection. Compare that to the Zhu Huanxi fireside. 2 to 4 hours per night in a group of 5 to 15 people, face to face, watching each other's reactions, telling stories selected by the community's collective memory rather than by an optimization function. The campfire was the original social technology, and it ran on a completely different operating system than anything we use now. Think about what you lose when you replace campfire stories with screens. Around the fire, you see faces. You hear voices modulate with emotion. You watch bodies lean in or pull back. The storyteller adjusts in real time based on the audience's reaction. Louder when attention drifts. Quieter when the camp is hanging on every word. The experience is embodied. It is social. It is responsive. And it happens in the dark, which strips away visual distraction and forces your brain into a mode of auditory and emotional processing that is fundamentally different from how your brain processes information during the bright, visually noisy day. Robin Dunbar, the Oxford evolutionary psychologist famous for Dunbar's number, the theory that humans can maintain stable social relationships with only about 150 people, wrote a commentary on Wiesner's study. He pointed out that the campfire conversation may have been the mechanism that enabled human social groups to grow beyond the size limits imposed on other primates, by telling stories about people who were not present, by building mental models of social networks that extended far beyond the physical camp. Firelight conversation may have been the cognitive tool that allowed early humans to scale their societies up to the point where civilization became possible. In other words, the campfire did not just bond communities. It may have made communities possible, and it only worked because of the night. But the fire and the stories are only part of what happened in the dark. Because while you were sitting by that fire, listening to stories, your body was doing something else, something your conscious mind did not control, something that happened automatically every night, and that we only rediscovered in 1992. That is item number 3. The consciousness state you were designed to enter every single night and have probably never entered once. In 1992, a psychiatrist named Thomas Weir at the National Institute of Mental Health ran an experiment that should have changed how we think about sleep. It did not, because the implications were too unsettling for a society that had already committed to a fundamentally different model of rest. But the data is there, and the data is unambiguous. Weir took a group of healthy volunteers and placed them in an environment where it was dark for 14 hours every night for 1 month. No artificial light, no phones, obviously. This was 1992. No screens, no way to stay up even if they wanted to. Just darkness, from early evening to morning. The same conditions that every human on the planet experienced before the invention of gas lamps and electric bulbs. The first few nights, the participants slept a lot. 11 hours on average. Weir concluded they were paying off a chronic sleep debt that they did not even know they were carrying. Think about what that means. These were healthy adults living normal modern lives, and they were carrying a cumulative sleep deficit so large that, when given the opportunity, their bodies demanded 11 hours of rest to begin clearing the backlog. Modern humans, it turns out, walk around sleep-deprived without realizing it, because they have never experienced what fully rested actually feels like. You think you are operating normally, your body disagrees. But by the 4th week, something consistent emerged. Every single participant, without being told, without being coached, without any suggestion from the researchers, settled into the same pattern. They lay awake for 1 to 2 hours after the lights went out. Then they fell asleep rapidly. The onset of sleep linked to a spike in melatonin triggered by the darkness. They slept for 3 to 5 hours. Then they woke up. They stayed awake for 1 to 2 hours in the dark. Then they slept for another 3 to 5 hours until morning. Biphasic sleep. First sleep and second sleep. The exact pattern that Eckert would later find documented across more than 2,000 historical references in a dozen languages going back to Homer's Odyssey, composed in the 8th century BCE. Nobody told Weir subjects to sleep this way. Nobody suggested the pattern. Their bodies did it on their own, as if some ancient program had been waiting inside them the whole time, buried under centuries of artificial light, needing only the return of natural darkness to switch back on. But here is the part that changes everything. Weir measured his subjects' hormone levels during that wakeful period between first and second sleep. And he found something that nobody expected. During the wakeful interval, the participants' brains were producing elevated levels of prolactin. This is the same hormone released during deep meditation. It is the same hormone released after orgasm. It is associated with a state of deep physical rest combined with quiet mental alertness. A neurological condition that is distinct from both normal wakefulness and any stage of sleep. The participants' prolactin levels during this interval were twice as high as during their daytime waking hours. The participants described the experience as peaceful, reflective, almost meditative. They did not feel groggy. They did not feel alert. They did not feel anxious about being awake. They were in a state that did not correspond to any standard category of consciousness. Not awake in the way you are awake right now, reading this, processing information, planning your next action. Not asleep, not dreaming, something else entirely. A third state as distinct from waking and sleeping as sleeping is from waking. Think about what this means for your personal history as a human being. For 300,000 years, conservatively, since Homo sapiens emerged as a species, and possibly much longer, since biphasic sleep appears to be a mammalian default rather than a human invention. Every human being on the planet entered this state every single night. Not occasionally, not on special occasions, not during a meditation retreat you paid $3,000 for. Every night. Automatically. Triggered by the natural light-dark cycle, requiring no training, no discipline, no practice. Your body produced it the way it produces a heartbeat. Without your knowledge, without your effort. You have probably never experienced it. Not because your brain cannot produce it. Your brain is fully capable of producing this state right now. But because the conditions that trigger it, extended darkness without artificial light, no longer exist in any environment you have ever been in. The light on your nightstand, the glow of your phone, the street lamp visible through your window. Any of these is sufficient to suppress the melatonin cascade that initiates the biphasic cycle. Your body tries. You wake up at 2 a.m. and lie there in the dark. And then you turn on a screen to check the time. Or you get up and flip a light switch and the cycle breaks. And the historical record confirms that people not only experienced this state, but recognized it, valued it, and used it. Ekirch found that a 16th century French physician named Laurent Joubert attributed the fertility of manual laborers to their habit of conceiving children during the wakeful window between first and second sleep, because, as Joubert put it, they had more enjoyment and did it better during that interval. Prayer books from the 1400s included specific devotions for the period between first and second sleep. Devotions that assumed you would be awake and in a contemplative mood. A doctor's manual from the 1500s advised patients that the best time for study and reflection was during the watch. The quiet hours between sleeps when the mind was calm and the world was still. People wrote letters during this time. They visited neighbors. They interpreted their dreams while the dreams were still fresh. None of them called it insomnia, because it was not insomnia. It was the default mode of human consciousness after dark, And it had been for as long as humans had existed. And here is the part that modern sleep science still has not fully reckoned with. The prolactin-mediated state between first and second sleep was not just restful, it was generative. Historical records suggest that the wakeful window was when some of the most important cognitive work of the day happened. People did not just lie there passively. They thought. They processed the events of the day. They interpreted their dreams, which, coming directly out of REM-rich first sleep, were still vivid and accessible, unlike the fragments you struggle to remember over your morning coffee after 8 compressed hours. They prayed in cultures where prayer was part of the nightly routine. They made love, and the 16th century physicians who recommended this window for conception were not being poetic. They were observing that the hormonal state of the wakeful interval, with its elevated prolactin and its relaxed parasympathetic tone, created conditions that were, in their clinical observation, more favorable for both desire and conception. Think about what that means. Your ancestors had a nightly 2-hour window of enhanced reflection, emotional processing, creative thought, and physical intimacy, delivered automatically by their biology, requiring no discipline and no training. You have a phone alarm and a prescription for Ambien. The question is not whether something was lost. The question is whether we have even begun to understand how much. Here is where it gets worse. Because the thing that killed this state, the thing that collapsed 300,000 years of two-phase sleep into the single compressed block you attempt every night, was not a natural disaster. It was not a genetic mutation. It was not an act of God. It was a product. It was something you could buy. That brings us to item number 4. The fastest extinction event in human history. The extinction of darkness. The word curfew comes from the French couvre-feu. It literally means cover fire. In medieval European towns, a bell would ring at night, signaling everyone to cover or extinguish their fires. Not because of fire safety, though that was part of it. Because night was supposed to be dark. Night was when you slept. Night was when you were vulnerable. Night was when the boundary between the physical world and the spiritual world was believed to thin. Being outside after dark without a lantern was, in many medieval cities, literally illegal. Night watchmen patrolled the streets, and anyone found walking without a light was assumed to be a criminal or worse. For most of human history, darkness was not inconvenient. It was dangerous, it was sacred. It was feared. People developed entire legal and religious systems around the simple fact that when the sun set, the world became a different place with different rules. There was day law and night law. There were crimes that were specifically nocturnal. Night walking was a chargeable offense in medieval England. Churches rang bells at specific hours of the night to mark the passage of time through the dark. Because without visual cues, people had no other way to know what time it was. The night had its own geography, its own customs, its own psychology. And then we conquered it. And we thought that was the end of the story. In the 1600s, cities began installing street lamps. Paris was among the first, under Louis XIV, who wanted to reduce crime and extend the usable hours of the city. London followed. The night, which had been a place of danger and fear and spiritual significance for the entirety of human history, slowly became navigable. Then came cheaper candles, manufactured in bulk. Then gas lamps in the 1800s, flooding city streets with a pale yellow glow that extended the commercial day deep into the evening hours. Factories began operating night shifts. Commerce expanded into the darkness. The night, which had been unproductive, became productive. And productivity, in the logic of industrialization, was always good. Then, in 1879, Thomas Edison commercialized the incandescent light bulb. And within a single generation, not a geological age, not a millennium, not even a century, the night as human beings had known it for 300,000 years ceased to exist. The speed of the adoption was staggering. In 1882, Edison opened the first commercial electrical power station on Pearl Street in Lower Manhattan, providing electricity to 85 customers. By 1930, roughly 70% of American homes had electricity. By 1960, electrification was essentially universal in the developed world. In the space of 80 years, less than a single human lifetime, the species went from firelight to fluorescence. The night that had been dark for the entirety of human existence was, in the blink of an evolutionary eye, gone. And the consequences cascaded immediately. Factories that had been limited to daylight hours now ran around the clock. The concept of the night shift was born, a direct product of the light bulb. Commerce expanded into the darkness. Cities never slept. The distinction between day and night, which had been absolute and non-negotiable for 300,000 years, became a matter of personal preference. You could now choose to stay up. You could choose to work at midnight. You could choose to eat dinner at 10 p.m. under lights as bright as noon. But choice implies awareness of what you are choosing between. And nobody told you what you were choosing to give up. Think about the speed of that transition. Imagine a clock where the entire 300,000-year history of Homo sapiens is compressed into a single 24-hour day. Midnight is the emergence of the species. Noon, the halfway point, 150,000 years in, is roughly when humans began migrating out of Africa. At 11 p.m., agriculture has not been invented yet. At 11:55 p.m., Rome has not fallen. At 11:59 and 57 seconds, the final 3 seconds of the day, Edison turns on the light bulb, and in those 3 seconds, the environment that shaped every previous hour of human existence is erased. Your brain evolved in the dark. Your circadian rhythm, your melatonin cycle, the architecture of your sleep, the prolactin-mediated consciousness state between first and second sleep, your relationship with fire, your capacity for fireside storytelling, your nightly experience of the cosmos. All of this was calibrated by natural selection over 300,000 years for a world where the night was dark, truly dark, not dim, not shadowy. Dark in a way that no one watching this from a lit room or listening with earbuds plugged into a glowing screen has ever experienced. Then, in less than 150 years, we removed it. We did not phase it out gradually, we flooded it. Every city block, every highway, every parking lot, every bathroom nightlight. The night was conquered in a geological instant, and the species that had been shaped by it was given no time to adapt. In 2013, Kenneth Wright at the University of Colorado Boulder published a study in Current Biology that quantified exactly what this means for your body right now. Wright sent a group of 8 volunteers camping in the Colorado Rockies for 1 week. No flashlights, no phones, no artificial light of any kind, just the sun, the campfire, and the stars. After 1 week, 7 days, the participants' melatonin cycles had shifted by nearly 2 hours. Their bodies began producing melatonin at sunset instead of hours after it. Their circadian clocks synchronized perfectly with the solar day. Melatonin onset matched sunset. Melatonin offset occurred before wake time, which meant that for the first time, the participants woke up feeling genuinely refreshed, because their biological night had ended before their alarm went off, rather than being interrupted in the middle by the alarm. Wright found that during their normal modern lives, the participants were exposed to roughly 4 times more light per day than they received during the camping week. But the critical factor was not the total amount of light. It was the timing. The participants were flooding their retinas with artificial light for hours after sunset, telling their brains it was still daytime, long after the sun had set. Their melatonin onset was delayed. Their sleep onset was delayed. Their entire circadian rhythm was shifted later than it should have been, every single day for their entire adult lives. 7 days in the wilderness was all it took to undo it. 7 days. In a follow-up study published in 2017, Wright found that even a weekend camping trip, 48 hours without artificial light, shifted melatonin onset by 1.4 hours. 69% of the full weekly shift happened in just 2 days. And in a winter camping study, where participants experienced the short days and long nights of the Colorado solstice, melatonin onset shifted by 2.6 hours and the total duration of melatonin secretion expanded. Their biological night lengthened to match the actual night exactly the way it does in animals that still live by the natural light-dark cycle. Your body is not confused about when night is supposed to start. Your body knows exactly when night starts. You are overriding it. Every evening, with every light in your house, with every screen in your hand, with every street lamp visible through your curtains. Modern humans are exposed to artificial light an average of 7 to 8 hours after sunset. And your retina does not know the difference between a 60-watt bulb and the sun. When photons hit the intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells in your eyes at 11 p.m., your suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock in your hypothalamus, interprets it as daytime. It delays melatonin release. It fragments your sleep architecture. It eliminates the conditions that would trigger biphasic sleep and the prolactin-mediated consciousness state between first and second sleep. You are not choosing to stay awake. Your biology is being overwritten by your environment. And nobody asked you if that was okay. But the extinction of darkness did not just change when you sleep. It changed what you see when you look up. And that change may be the most consequential of all. That brings us to item number 5. The sky your ancestors lived under and what it did to them. For 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors spent half their life under a sky you have almost certainly never seen. Not the sky you see from your backyard. Not even the sky you see from a dark, rural road an hour outside the city. The sky they saw was a sky without any artificial light anywhere on the planet. And that sky was so different from the one above you right now that describing the difference is almost like describing a different planet. In 2016, an international team led by Fabio Falci at the Light Pollution Science and Technology Institute published a global atlas of artificial night sky brightness in the journal Science Advances. The findings were simple and devastating. 1/3 of all humans on Earth can no longer see the Milky Way. In the United States, that number is 80%. In Europe, 60%. In Singapore, the entire population lives under skies so bright that their eyes cannot fully dark adapt to night vision. For those people, true night never comes. More than 99% of people in the United States and Europe live under light-polluted skies. And a 2023 study published in Science by Christopher Kaiber and colleagues, using data from the citizen science program Globe at Night, found that the problem is getting worse faster than satellite measurements suggest. From the perspective of the human eye on the ground, stars are disappearing at a rate of roughly 10% per year in some regions. The sky your ancestors lived under is, for most of the human species, gone. Now think about what that sky actually looked like. Under truly dark conditions. No artificial light within hundreds of miles. Clear atmosphere, no moon. The unaided human eye can perceive between 6,000 and 9,000 individual stars. The Milky Way is not a faint smudge. It is a solid, luminous band that stretches from horizon to horizon, so bright it casts a faint shadow on the ground. You can see individual dust lanes within it. The Andromeda Galaxy is visible as a pale elliptical smear, the most distant object the human eye can detect, sitting 2.5 million light years away from you. On a clear winter night in the northern hemisphere, the zodiacal light, a faint cone of sunlight, reflecting off interplanetary dust particles in the plane of the solar system, is visible before dawn, angling up from the horizon like a ghostly searchlight. The air glow, the faint luminescence of the upper atmosphere caused by chemical reactions in the mesosphere at an altitude of roughly 85 to 90 kilometers, gives the entire sky a subtle, living shimmer that you can only perceive when every other source of light has been removed. That was the ceiling of the world your ancestors lived under every clear night. Not occasionally, not on special expeditions, every single night. The full Milky Way, with its 200 billion stars, arcing overhead like a river of light. The planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, Venus, wandering slowly against the fixed background of constellations over the course of weeks and months. Occasional comets appearing without warning, blazing across the sky for weeks before fading. Meteor showers raining down in silence. and the slow, majestic rotation of the entire sky from east to west. The same arc, every night, forever. And here is the part that connects this to everything else we have discussed. That sky did not just provide scenery, it provided information. Your ancestors were not passive observers of the stars. They were scientists. The earliest known astronomical structures, Goseck Circle in Germany, dated to roughly 4900 BCE, and Nabta Playa in the Egyptian Sahara, dated to approximately 5000 BCE, are calendrical instruments. They track solstices, equinoxes, and the positions of key stars. They were built by people who had no writing, no mathematics in any formal sense, and no telescopes. They had naked eyes and dark skies. And with nothing more than those two instruments, they tracked seasonal cycles with enough precision to plan agriculture, predict flooding, and coordinate social gatherings across distances of hundreds of miles. But those structures are relatively recent in the human story. The deeper mystery is Göbekli Tepe. Located in southeastern Turkey, this site was constructed approximately 11,600 years ago, 7,000 years before Stonehenge, 6,000 years before the invention of writing, and 5,000 years before the oldest known Egyptian pyramids. It consists of at least 20 circular enclosures containing T-shaped limestone pillars, some over 5 meters tall and weighing up to 10 tons. They were quarried from bedrock roughly 500 meters away, transported without wheels or draft animals, and erected with a precision that modern engineers have called impressive. The pillars are carved with elaborate reliefs of animals, geometric symbols, and abstract patterns. It was built by hunter-gatherers, people who, according to the standard model of prehistoric development, had no surplus food production, no permanent settlements, and no administrative structure capable of organizing large-scale labor. And yet they organized large-scale labor. They built something monumental. And a growing body of research suggests that what they built was connected to the sky. In 2017, a team from the University of Edinburgh, led by Martin Sweatman, published a paper in Mediterranean Archaeology and Archaeometry, arguing that the animal symbols carved on the Göbekli Tepe pillars correspond to astronomical constellations. Sweatman argued that the carvings encode specific dates using stellar coordinates, including a date that corresponds to the onset of the Younger Dryas cooling event, approximately 12,800 years ago. A catastrophic climate shift that may have been triggered by a cosmic impact event. This interpretation is debated. Not all archaeologists accept it, but the underlying question is not debated at all. People who lived under a truly dark sky for hundreds of thousands of years accumulated astronomical knowledge of astonishing precision. They encoded it in stone, in mythology, in ritual, and in oral tradition. The night sky was not a backdrop to their lives. It was a library, a clock, a calendar, a map, and every night of their lives, for hours, they could read it. You cannot read it anymore, not because the library was destroyed, because the lights are on, and the lights are getting brighter every year. But the loss of the dark sky is not just a loss of scientific data, It is not just a loss of beauty, though the beauty is staggering. There is evidence that it may be a loss of something neurological, something that your brain was built to do in response to what it saw overhead. That is item number 6. What darkness and the cosmos do to your brain when you experience them together. In 2024, a study published in Scientific Reports by researchers at the University of Michigan found something that should have been obvious but had never been measured. Using location data for millions of US residents, they found a direct, statistically significant correlation between access to dark skies and the prevalence of a specific human emotion: wonder about the universe. Populations living in areas with low light pollution reported significantly higher levels of what the researchers measured as cosmic wonder. And this emotional state in turn predicted behavioral interest in astronomy and science more broadly. This was not a metaphor. This was a measurable emotional and behavioral effect. People who could see the stars felt more wonder. People who felt more wonder were more likely to engage with science. People who could not see the stars felt less wonder and were less likely to look up. The finding aligns with a broader body of research on the psychology of awe. Dasha Keltner at UC Berkeley has studied awe for decades and found that it is not just a pleasant emotion. It is a physiological event with measurable consequences. Awe reduces inflammatory cytokines in the body. It decreases self-referential thinking, the constant inner monologue about yourself and your problems. It increases pro-social behavior, generosity, cooperation, kindness. It shifts the brain out of the default mode network, the neural circuitry associated with rumination and anxiety, and into a state of outward-focused attention. In other words, the emotion triggered by looking at a vast star-filled sky is not just beautiful, it is medicinal. And for 300,000 years, it was administered nightly, for free, to every human being on the planet. Now combine this with what we know about the prolactin-mediated consciousness state of biphasic sleep. You are lying in the dark. Your brain is flooded with prolactin. You are in a state of reflective calm that is neurologically distinct from both normal wakefulness and sleep. And above you, visible through whatever opening in your shelter exists, a cave mouth, a gap in the thatch, the open sky of a nomadic camp, is the full, unobscured Milky Way. 200 billion stars, a luminous band stretching from one horizon to the other. So bright it casts shadows. No one has designed an experiment that measures the neurological interaction between the prolactin-mediated consciousness state and simultaneous exposure to a truly dark sky. Science stops here, but here is what the evidence allows us to consider. Your ancestors experienced every single night a combination of internal neurochemistry and external visual stimulus that no modern human experiences. An altered state of consciousness triggered by natural sleep architecture, occurring under direct exposure to the most awe-inspiring natural stimulus available on the surface of the earth. A brain flooded with prolactin, looking up at infinity. Every night, for hundreds of thousands of years. What does that do to a species over 300,000 years? What does it build in the brain? What does it calibrate in the psyche? What relationship to scale, to humility, to wonder, to the cosmos does it establish as a baseline that the modern world has removed? We do not know, but we can observe what happens in its absence. Rates of anxiety and depression in industrialized nations have been rising steadily for decades. Sleep disorders affect roughly 70 million Americans. The default mode network, the brain circuitry associated with rumination, self-focus and anxiety, is chronically overactive in modern populations. And the primary environmental condition that suppresses the default mode network, or has been removed from the nightly experience of 80% of the American population by light pollution. Is this a coincidence? Probably partly. Mental health is complex and multiply determined, but the temporal correlation is hard to ignore. The generation that lost the dark sky is the generation that lost the ability to fall asleep without pharmaceutical assistance. We replaced the Milky Way with a ceiling, and then we wondered why the ceiling felt like it was closing in. Here is a story that makes this concrete. In 1994, a magnitude 6.7 earthquake struck Northridge, California, causing widespread power outages across Los Angeles. In the hours after the quake, as the city sat in total darkness for the first time in decades, emergency services began receiving a flood of 911 calls. People were reporting a strange, silvery cloud in the sky, something they had never seen before, something that looked eerie, almost threatening. What they were looking at was the Milky Way. Light pollution in Los Angeles was so severe and had been for so long that an entire population of a major American city had never seen their own galaxy. When the lights went out, they did not recognize the sky. They called the police. They were afraid of it. Think about what that says about where we are as a species. For 300,000 years, the Milky Way was the single most prominent feature of the nightly landscape. It was the river of light that every culture on Earth named, mapped, mythologized, and navigated by. And in less than a century of artificial lighting, an entire city full of human beings had lost the ability to recognize it. The awe is still there. The trigger is still there. Your brain is still built to respond to it. But the connection has been severed by a layer of photons that you never asked for and that your retinal ganglion cells cannot distinguish from daylight. But the night did something else to your ancestors. Something that connects directly to the deepest questions about what it means to be human and what happens when you stop being one. That is item number 7. What the night did to the human relationship with death. Here is a pattern that anthropologists have documented across virtually every culture in the archaeological and ethnographic record, on every inhabited continent, in societies with no contact with each other, spanning tens of thousands of years. Death rituals are associated with the night. The oldest known intentional burial, discovered in Kafse cave in Israel, dated to approximately 100,000 years ago, involved ochre-stained bones and grave goods positioned in ways that suggest deliberate ritual behavior. The Neanderthal burials at Shanida Cave in Iraq, dated to roughly 60,000 years ago, contained pollen from medicinal and flowering plants, suggesting that even our evolutionary cousins mark the passage of death with something approaching ceremony. These burials predate agriculture by 90,000 years. They predate writing by 95,000 years. They predate civilization by 95,000 years. The ritual treatment of the dead is one of the oldest identifiable human behaviors, older than art, older than music, possibly older than complex language. And across every culture that left a record of its death mythology, the dead were associated with darkness. The ancient Egyptians believed the dead traveled through the duat, the underworld, during the 12 hours of the night. The sun itself, Ra, died each evening, journeyed through a dark realm of serpents and gates, and was reborn each morning. The entire cosmology was structured around the nightly death and rebirth of the most important object in the sky. The Greeks placed Hades underground in eternal shadow. Charon ferried the dead across the river Styx in darkness. The Norse located hell beneath the roots of Yggdrasil, in a realm where no light reached. Mesopotamian death mythology placed the dead in what the Epic of Gilgamesh calls the House of Dust and Darkness, from which no traveler returns. The Aztec underworld, Mictlan, was a dark realm requiring a 4-year journey through 9 levels on every continent, independently, with zero contact between them. The land of the dead was the dark. This is usually interpreted as metaphor. Death is darkness, because death is the absence of life, and life is light. It is a poetic correspondence, a symbolic association. But here is where it gets unsettling. Think about it from the perspective of someone who lived 50,000 years ago. Someone without electric light. Someone who experienced genuine, total, absolute darkness every single night of their life. For that person, darkness was not a metaphor. Darkness was a place they went. Every evening, when the fire burned low and the embers dimmed, they entered a realm where the visible world disappeared entirely. The trees, the mountains, the faces of their family, all of it gone, replaced by black. And in that black, their bodies lay still, and their minds produced vivid, emotionally intense, fully convincing experiences, dreams, populated by people who were not present, including, frequently, people who had died. Think about the logic here. You have no concept of neuroscience. You have no concept of REM sleep or dream generation. You have no framework for understanding why. Every night, when the darkness comes and your body lies still, you see your dead mother as clearly as if she were standing in front of you. She speaks to you, she touches you, she tells you something you needed to hear. And then you wake up and she is gone. And you are lying in the dark, in the wakeful window between first and second sleep, with prolactin flooding your brain and a meditative calm settling over your mind. And the question is not abstract. The question is immediate and personal. Where did she go? Where was I just now? What is this dark place where the dead are still alive? What conclusion do you draw? The only rational conclusion available to you, given your evidence. The dead are not gone. They are in the dark. And every night, when you enter the dark yourself, you visit them. This is not primitive thinking. This is logical inference from available evidence. If you experience vivid, convincing encounters with dead people every single time you lose consciousness in the dark, and you have no alternative explanation for those encounters, the most parsimonious conclusion is that the dark is where the dead are. The night is the threshold between the living world and the world of the departed. Sleep is how you cross it. Dreams are what you find on the other side. And that conclusion, drawn independently by every human culture on Earth, without exception over tens of thousands of years, became the foundation of every religion that ever existed. Every afterlife cosmology, every funerary ritual, every system of ancestor worship, every prayer for the dead, every tomb, every burial mound, every pyramid, every cenotaph. The monumental architecture of death, which represents the largest single category of ancient construction on Earth, dwarfing temples, palaces, and fortifications combined, was built on a conclusion that humans drew from what they experienced in the dark. And the wakeful window between first and second sleep was the processing center. Think about the timing. You dream during REM sleep in your first sleep block. You wake up. You are in the prolactin-mediated state, calm, reflective, deeply present. And the dream you just had, in which your dead father spoke to you in a voice so clear you could feel his breath, is not a fading memory you struggle to reconstruct. It is right there. It just happened. You are lying in total darkness, in a state of consciousness perfectly calibrated for reflection. And the most vivid experience of your night, a meeting with the dead, is still reverberating through your mind. This is dream incubation. This is the mechanism by which ancient humans processed grief, maintained bonds with ancestors, and constructed meaning around the fact of death. And it was not a ritual they chose to perform. It was a biological event triggered automatically by the natural light-dark cycle occurring every single night in every human brain on the planet. Now think about what happened when we eliminated the dark. We did not just change our sleep architecture. We did not just erase the stars. We severed the nightly experiential basis for the most universal human belief system in history. We removed the environment in which humans had, for hundreds of thousands of years, experienced what they interpreted as direct contact with their ancestors. We eliminated the dream incubation conditions that total darkness and biphasic sleep provided. And we did it in less than 150 years. Is it a coincidence that the collapse of traditional religious participation in the industrialized world tracks almost precisely with the proliferation of artificial lighting? No one has established a causal link. No study has directly tested the hypothesis, but the temporal correspondence is striking. The generation that lost the dark is the generation that lost the gods. And if the gods were partly a product of what the brain did in total darkness between first and second sleep, the loss of one may have made the loss of the other inevitable. There is no data for this, only the question itself. But the question is worth sitting with in the dark. And there is one more item, one that pushes beyond all the others into territory that connects the nightly human experience to the structure of the cosmos itself. That is item number 8. What the dark taught humanity about the nature of reality. There is a concept in developmental psychology called object permanence. It is the understanding that things continue to exist even when you cannot see them. Infants develop it between 4 and 8 months of age. Before that, if you hide a toy behind a blanket, the infant does not look for it. The toy, from the infant's perspective, has ceased to exist. After object permanence develops, the infant understands that the toy is still there, just hidden. The world becomes stable. Objects persist. Now imagine you are a human being 100,000 years ago. You have object permanence. You are a fully developed adult mind. But every single night, the entire visible world disappears. The trees, the river, the mountains, your own hands, all of it gone, replaced by nothing. And then, every morning, it comes back. Think about what that nightly experience does to your model of reality over hundreds of thousands of years. It teaches you, at the deepest intuitive level, that the visible world is not permanent, that it comes and goes, that there is a state, darkness, in which the world is absent but not destroyed, because it returns. Every single morning it returns. The same mountains, the same river, the same sun. The world dies every evening and is born every morning, and the interval between death and rebirth is the dark. This is not a philosophical abstraction your ancestors debated in seminars. This is a lived experience repeated 365 times a year for 300,000 years. It is the most fundamental observation any human being can make about the structure of reality. The world is cyclical. It ends. It begins. The dark is the space between. And the cosmological models your ancestors built reflect this observation with eerie precision. Across virtually every ancient culture on Earth, the universe was described as cyclical. Hindu cosmology describes the days and nights of Brahma, vast cycles of creation, existence, and dissolution, spanning 4.32 billion years each, repeating endlessly. Norse mythology describes Ragnarök, the destruction of the gods and the world, followed by rebirth from the ashes. The Maya long count calendar encodes enormous temporal cycles. Egyptian cosmology described the daily death and rebirth of the sun as a microcosm of the cosmic cycle. The Stoics believed the universe was periodically consumed by fire and reborn. Buddhist cosmology describes kalpas, world ages of creation and destruction, repeating without beginning or end. Every continent, every civilization, the same model. The universe is cyclical. It is created. It exists. It is destroyed. And then it is created again. Where did this model come from? It came from the dark. Every night, your ancestors watched the world end, and every morning they watched it begin again. The cosmological model they constructed from that observation, that reality is cyclical, that destruction is followed by renewal, that the darkness is not the end but the interval between worlds, is arguably the oldest surviving human idea about the nature of existence, older than agriculture, older than writing, older than cities. And here is the part that should make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. That model may not be wrong. Modern cosmology, as of 2025, has not settled the question of whether the universe is cyclical Roger Penrose, the 2020 Nobel laureate in physics, proposed conformal cyclic cosmology, a model in which the Big Bang was not a beginning but a transition from a previous cosmic era. The universe expands, cools, and eventually reduces to pure radiation. When all mass is gone and there are no more clocks, no more distance, no more time, the geometry resets, and a new Big Bang occurs, endlessly. Paul Steinhardt at Princeton and Neil Turok proposed the ekpyrotic model, in which our universe is a three-dimensional membrane floating in a higher dimensional space, and periodic collisions between membranes trigger new Big Bangs. Both of these are serious theoretical frameworks, published in peer-reviewed journals, proposed by scientists with Nobel Prizes and endowed chairs. And both of them describe exactly the pattern that your ancestors inferred from watching the world disappear and reappear every single night for 300,000 years. The cosmos is cyclical. It ends, it begins. The dark is the space between. This is where certainty ends and where the real investigation begins. Did the nightly experience of darkness give your ancestors an intuition about the structure of reality that modern physics is only now formalizing? Did 300,000 years of watching the world die and be reborn every 24 hours produce a cosmological insight so deep that it took until the 21st century for theoretical physics to arrive at the same conclusion through mathematics? There is no data for this, only the question itself. What if the oldest idea our species ever had about the cosmos turns out to be correct? And what if the environment that produced that idea, the dark, is the one thing we eliminated before we understood what it had been teaching us? Think about what this means for you, right now, in this room. You are a descendant of 300,000 years of nightly cosmic observation. Every one of your ancestors watched the world die and be reborn every 24 hours. They did this from inside a brain that entered a distinct state of prolactin-mediated consciousness during the transition. They did it under a sky that showed them 200 billion stars. And the cosmological model they constructed from that experience, the cyclical universe, the idea that destruction is not final, that the dark is not empty but is the space between worlds, is the oldest surviving idea in human intellectual history. You inherited their brain. You inherited their circadian architecture. You inherited their capacity for awe and their neurological response to darkness. You did not inherit their sky. You did not inherit their sleep. You did not inherit their fire, or their stories, or their nightly relationship with the dead. But the capacity for all of it is still running, still active, still waiting. Not metaphorically, biologically. The question is not whether the dark was important. The evidence for that is overwhelming. The question is what you do with the knowledge that the most fundamental environmental condition of human existence for 300,000 years has been eliminated within your great-great-grandparents' lifetime. And that the elimination was not a natural process. It was a product decision. Someone commercialized the light bulb. Someone strung the power lines. Someone installed the street lamps. And nobody at any point in that chain asked what would be lost. Now you know what was lost. And you are the first generation in history that has both the knowledge and the ability to get some of it back. So, here is the full inventory of what the extinction of darkness has taken from you. You lost biphasic sleep, the two-phase rest cycle that every human on Earth maintained for at least 300,000 years was collapsed into a single compressed block within roughly 150 years. The prolactin-mediated consciousness state between first and second sleep, the reflective, meditative, neurologically distinct window that various subjects described as profoundly peaceful, was eliminated without your knowledge or consent. You lost the dark sky, the Milky Way, the 200 billion star river of light that arced over your ancestors every clear night for 300,000 years, is now invisible to 80% of North Americans. The nightly trigger for awe has been removed from the default human experience. You lost the fire, the campfire conversation, 81% stories, the nightly construction of culture and empathy and social cohesion was replaced first by gaslight, then by electric light, then by screens. The original social media was dismantled in 2 centuries. You lost the nightly relationship with death, the experiential basis for every afterlife cosmology in human history, the vivid dream encounters with the dead, occurring naturally in total darkness during the wakeful interval of biphasic sleep, was severed when the dark was erased, and you lost the cosmological laboratory, the nightly death and rebirth of the visible world, the experience that produced the oldest and most universal human idea about the nature of reality, was replaced by a ceiling and a 60-watt bulb. The loss is real, it is documented, it is measurable, and I'm not going to minimize it. But here is where the investigation turns, because the loss, while real, has a property that almost no other form of extinction shares. It is reversible. You are the first generation in 300,000 years of human history that knows what was lost. Ekirk published his findings in 2001. Ware ran his experiment in 1992. Wisner published her study in 2014. Wright published his camping research in 2013. Falchi published his Light Pollution Atlas in 2016. This information is not ancient wisdom passed down through oral tradition. It is contemporary science, most of it less than 30 years old. Your grandparents did not know biphasic sleep existed. Their grandparents had already forgotten it. The loss happened so fast that the memory of it was gone within 2 generations. But the science has now recovered what the culture forgot. And the dark is not gone. It is being overwritten. Every night, behind the light pollution, behind the screen glow, behind the street lamps, the dark is still there. The same dark that shaped your ancestors for 300,000 years. The same dark that triggered biphasic sleep and the prolactin-mediated consciousness state. The same dark that made the Milky Way visible. Kenneth Wright demonstrated that a single weekend camping trip, 48 hours without artificial light, was sufficient to begin shifting your melatonin cycle back toward the rhythm it was designed for. 2 days. That is all it takes for your circadian system to start recalibrating toward the conditions that shaped your species. Your body has not forgotten the dark. It has not evolved past it in 150 years. Evolution does not work that fast. Your biology is still calibrated for a world that ended 3 seconds ago on the 300,000-year clock. It is waiting, and the sky is still there, in national parks, in wilderness areas, in dark sky preserves on every continent, in the Atacama Desert, in the Australian outback, in rural Madagascar and central Chad, where more than 3/4 of the population still lives under pristine, ink-black night sky conditions. The Milky Way is still there. The slow arc of the constellations is still running. The planets are still wandering. The meteor showers still fall. The universe has not dimmed. The only thing between you and 300,000 years of nightly cosmic contact is a car and a few hours of driving. Or, if you cannot drive that far tonight, a light switch. Because here is the thing that makes this different from every other loss we have discussed on this channel. You do not need a telescope to recover this. You do not need a lab. You do not need a prescription or a meditation app or a spiritual retreat. You need darkness. You need time. And you need to go outside and look up. You are a creature built to spend half its life in the dark. Not in the dark as in suffering. Not in the dark as in ignorance. In the dark as in the environment that triggered your deepest forms of consciousness, connected you to the cosmos, bonded you to your community through fireside stories, gave you a nightly laboratory for contemplating the deepest questions about existence, and sustained a relationship with the dead that held meaning systems together for 300,000 years. The modern world did not upgrade you past the need for darkness. It removed a feature your biology still requires and your psyche still reaches for. Every time you wake at 2 a.m. and lie there in the silence, wondering what is wrong with you, that is not a malfunction. That is your body reaching for a state of consciousness that 300,000 years of evolution built into you. A state that the light on your nightstand is preventing you from entering. A state that is waiting for the dark to return. You are not broken. You are remembering. And the night, the real night, the one your ancestors knew, the one with the Milky Way overhead and the fire burning low and the silence between first and second sleep is still there. Behind the lights, behind the screens, behind the ceiling you stare at when you cannot sleep. It has not changed. The dark has not moved. The stars have not dimmed. The cosmos has not lost its capacity to trigger in your brain the states it has been triggering in human brains for 300,000 years. The only thing that changed is that someone put a switch on the wall, and you can turn it off. Here is my closing thought, and it is the one that sits with me in the small hours when I cannot sleep, which now I no longer try to fight. We spend an enormous amount of time and energy trying to solve problems that our ancestors never had. We take pills to fall asleep. We pay therapists to help us process anxiety that may be partly a product of never experiencing awe. We scroll through social media at midnight, filling the hours that used to be filled with fireside stories, and we wonder why we feel disconnected from other people. We build meditation apps to manufacture a state of reflective calm that the darkness once produced for free. We treat waking up at 2 a.m. as a medical problem instead of a biological feature. We spend thousands of dollars on retreats designed to help us reconnect with nature. As if nature were somewhere else, as if it required a plane ticket and a booking confirmation, rather than being the dark outside your window every single night. The universe does not care whether you see its stars. The Milky Way has been there for roughly 13 billion years. It was there before your species evolved. It will be there long after we are gone. It does not need your attention, but you might need its. Because here is the thing about 300,000 years of evolution in the dark. It left marks, not metaphorical marks. Neurological marks, circadian marks, hormonal marks. Your body still reaches for biphasic sleep. Your brain still produces prolactin during the middle of the night if the conditions are right. Your retinal ganglion cells still respond to the natural light-dark cycle within 48 hours of exposure. Your default mode network still quiets down in the presence of awe. Every piece of the system is intact. It is all still there, still running, still waiting for the signal. The signal is darkness. 300,000 years of your lineage lived in it. 150 years of industrial civilization have tried to replace it. And the biology has not budged. It is still calibrated for the fire, the stars, the stories, and the silence between first and second sleep. Your atoms assembled themselves into a form that can look up at infinity and feel something. The fact that you built a ceiling between yourself and infinity is the most human thing you have ever done. The desire to be safe, to be warm, to be in control of the light. But the price of that ceiling is the sky. And the price of the sky is something you will only understand when you see it, without a ceiling for the first time. So go outside, turn off the lights, wait for your eyes to adjust. It takes about 20 minutes for your rod cells to reach full dark adaptation. The first 5 minutes are the hardest, because you cannot see anything, and your instinct is to reach for a light. Do not wait, and then look up. What you will see is what every human who ever lived saw when they looked up. It has not changed. The dark has not moved. Your ancestors are not there anymore, but the sky they lived under is. And your brain, your ancient 300,000-year-old brain, will know exactly what to do with it. It will not bring back the campfire or restore your first sleep tonight, but it might remind the algorithm that some things are worth sitting with in the dark. I want to know which of these 8 losses keeps you up at night. Is it the consciousness state you have never entered? Is it the sky you have never seen? Or is it the nightly relationship with death that every one of your ancestors maintained and that you have never had? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to keep exploring what the universe reveals about who we are and what we have forgotten, make sure to subscribe.